It had been years since the breakup. When I ran into my ex-girlfriend again, she was now the city's youngest self-made billionaire. At a class reunion, her fiancé said, "Thanks to you. If you hadn't let go back then, the president of Thorn Corporation would be you right now." Her expression was cool as she replied, "It's all in the past." Under her gaze, the others, eager to stir things up, started teasing. I silently covered the scar on my wrist and forced a smile. Yes, the two of us. We have no connection anymore. I remember it was Alexander who broke up with you, right? While her fiancé was in the restroom, our classmates started gossiping. Alexander was me. Isabella sat opposite me, a faint smile on her lips, but her eyes were icily indifferent. This was the first time we had met in the 6 years since our breakup, and everything felt a bit sudden. I had only come because the class president said Isabella wouldn't be there. I never expected to see her. The Isabella of today was accomplished and famous, a distinguished talent in the city who had returned from overseas. The watch on her wrist alone was priceless. Everyone admired and respected her. In contrast, I was a shadow of my former self. It was indeed him who initiated the breakup, Isabella replied calmly, answering their curiosity. Everyone had their own theories, mostly that I had cheated or fallen for someone else. "Alexander, I heard you're in a lot of debt. Did you come to the reunion to borrow money? I also heard he's being kept by a rich woman." Amidst the jeers, Isabella's eyes remained fixed on me, unblinking. I smiled awkwardly, not answering. The door opened, and Isabella's fiancé walked back in. Sensing the strange atmosphere, he smiled and asked, "What happened while I was gone?" Abandoning her earlier silence, Isabella linked her arm with his and said softly, "Nothing, just catching up." He sat down composedly, his gaze settling on me. He smiled. "Isabella has told me about you. If you hadn't let go back then, the president of Thorn Corporation would be you right now." A glint of schadenfreude appeared in many eyes. Back then, the Montgomery family was at its peak, and I was the center of attention wherever I went. This jealousy hadn't faded with time. Instead, it had become a reason for them to kick me while I was down. Years later, Isabella broke the awkward silence. Her voice was cool and firm. "It's all in the past." Everyone quieted down, understanding the unspoken message that the magnate didn't want to continue this topic, and they started talking about other things. Her fiancé raised his glass to me. "Thank you for letting her go. You must come to our wedding." I silently covered the scar on my wrist and numbly said, "Congratulations. Why didn't you explain things to her on the phone?" My friend Lucas was indignant on my behalf. The class reunion ended early. I stood in the cold wind, wrapped in my overcoat, my eyes filled with desolation. "She has a fiancé." The other end of the line went silent for a moment. "A fiancé?" Lucas was incredulous. "Yeah." Classmates left in 2s and 3s. The street light cast a glow on the snow, like shattered crystal. "It's a shame you finally saw, after working so hard for so long, Lucas. No one waits for you forever. Some things, if not said at the time, only cause more pain and serve no purpose later." The cold wind made my eyes sting. I laughed self-deprecatingly. Man, I give up. Even after struggling for so many years, clawing my way out of the mud, wanting to reunite with her in the most respectable way, it was too late. "All right, come back and we'll talk." The temperature before the new year had dropped below freezing. Taxis were hard to find. After standing for a while, my hands were numb, and my phone showed queuing. The sound of high heels approached from behind, accompanied by her fiancé's solicitous voice. "Isabella, the snow is beautiful. It's cold out here. Go to the car first. I'll be there in a moment." Isabella's voice was clear, pleasant, and very distinctive. "Then hurry." As the man passed me, he gave me a meaningful look. Then he walked to a nearby car, opened the door, his movement deliberately exposing the wedding ring on his ring finger, which was particularly glaring. It was a Thorn family heirloom. It had once been on my hand. When we broke up, I had someone return it to Isabella. Everyone else had left. Only she and I remained. The car I had called hadn't arrived yet. Isabella stood behind me, silent. We stood there in silence, our two shadows overlapping under the street light. My thoughts drifted back to that year, the night of our breakup. Isabella had gotten into a car accident on her way to see me. Her best friend called, her tone unfriendly. "Isabella's in the hospital. Is her life in danger? So you wouldn't come if it wasn't? Please take care of her. Alexander, she got the spot to go abroad. She'll make something of herself sooner or later. Why couldn't you wait a little longer? Are you that desperate for money? All those things she did for you. You could never repay her in 100 lifetimes." Her best friend was practically hysterical on the phone, just short of calling me an ungrateful wolf. The phone was suddenly snatched away and hung up. Could be said that I abandoned her. It was normal for her to hate me. How much do you owe? Isabella's cold voice pulled me back from my memories. It's none of your business. I inhaled the cold air. My throat, irritated by the alcohol earlier, throbbed, and I suddenly started coughing. The cold air tore at my windpipe, causing sharp pain. I bent over, leaning against the lamppost. The alcohol I had drunk earlier began to churn in my stomach, and I broke out in a cold sweat. Isabella stood beside me, watching coldly. A taxi slowly pulled up in front of me. The driver leaned out. Going to the Sterling residences, yes? I propped myself up on my knees, took a breath, and reached for the car door, but someone grabbed my sleeve. Isabella asked coldly, "What are you going there for?" The Sterling residences was a wealthy neighborhood. They didn't easily let people in. I roughly tried to push Isabella's hand away, but she grabbed my wrist. Her burning touch seared my skin, the heat reaching my heart. I struggled twice, then couldn't bring myself to pull away anymore. Looking up at Isabella's dark, unreadable face, I asked, "What do you want to say, Ms. Thorne?" She pursed her lips, her proud, beautiful face devoid of emotion. I forced a smile, voicing her thoughts. "You think like everyone else that my money isn't clean, right? $50,000 a month. Is that enough?" Isabella interrupted me, her face cold. "What do you mean?" A sneer finally appeared in Isabella's eyes. "Aren't you short on money? $50,000, $100,000. If it's not enough, you name the price." I suddenly yanked Isabella's hand away forcefully. Due to the excessive force, she lost her balance and stumbled back a few steps, hitting the lamppost. A man's exclamation sounded from a distance. He opened his car door and rushed out. "Live your life well. Don't overstep." I threw those words at her and left in the car. "You got rough with her?" Lucas poured me a glass of hot water. "Yeah, she wanted to keep me." I curled up on the sofa, enduring waves of stomach cramps, and slowly drank the water. After a while, I suddenly turned and ran to the bathroom to throw up. Lucas patted my back. "You drank even with your bad stomach." I took a few breaths, wiped the water from my lips after rinsing. My esophagus was burning. Loving someone for so many years, was it worth it? I looked up, staring at my reflection in the mirror. My dark hair was wet and stuck to my forehead, my face pale. Lucas's complaints drifted from far away, indistinct. If you hadn't been so cruel and broken up with her, she wouldn't be where she is today. I thought of Isabella's fiancé again. Compared to me, he was more vibrant and knew how to please Isabella. I vaguely remembered being like that many years ago, but then I fell on hard times. And by the time I crawled out of the gutter, everything had changed. After Lucas finished his work at the Sterling residences, we walked shoulder to shoulder back to our rented apartment. I suddenly received a call from Isabella's best friend, Amelia. "Alexander, if you're having difficulties, I can arrange a job for you." I said nothing, waiting for her to continue. "They're getting married next month. Spencer is a good guy, and his family background isn't bad either. I won't bother them again, don't worry." She was silent for a moment, then explained futilely, "We just want Isabella to be happy." All my friends from back then, without exception, had sided with Isabella. After hanging up, Lucas smiled bitterly. "They don't understand anything. It's okay. Since I had to stay here for a while, I found a job not far from home." During the interview, the HR person asked suspiciously, "Do you have depression?" That was in the past. I'm better now. I have a doctor's certificate. Several previous companies had rejected me during background checks for this reason. This company was smaller, and I received the job offer that same evening. I thought the class reunion would be the last time Isabella and I would interact. Unexpectedly, 3 days later, Isabella parachuted into our company and became my boss. And my desk was moved to the entrance of Isabella's office. I refuse. "Fine." Isabella didn't even look up, her voice icy. "Submit your resignation to HR." I was so angry I left. "Just because I don't agree to move my desk, you're going to fire me?" Her pen paused, and she finally deigned to look up and speak to me. "I'm just offering you a choice. Did you think I was after something from you?" I was speechless, remembering how Lucas had argued with someone over a bit of rent last night. I forced a smile. "Miss Thorne is a person of high moral character. Naturally, I have nothing to fear." Isabella nodded slightly. "Thank you. Close the door on your way out. Also, your chair should face away from me. I don't want to see your face." The following days, we had almost no interaction. A week later, there was a company team building event. Since I was new, I was pressured into drinking too much. "Young Alexander, if you don't drink, your salary will be docked. Don't worry, if you get drunk, we'll take you back." You're a grown man. What's there to be afraid of? The manager smiled and urged me to drink. Amidst the jeers, I downed the last glass of the night and collapsed unconscious on the table. The next day, I woke up in a large bed. Bright sunlight made it hard to open my eyes. I sat up, pushed back the covers, revealing the soft bathrobe wrapped around me. I froze for a moment, then got up and walked out. In the spacious living room, Isabella was sitting at the dining table reading the morning paper, also wearing a hotel bathrobe. Seeing me, she glanced up coolly. Awake? Breakfast is on the table. A chill ran down my spine, and my face turned deathly pale. Isabella casually tossed the newspaper onto the coffee table, slightly loosened her collar, revealing an ambiguous kiss mark on her fair skin. Unfortunately, you initiated it last night. I felt like I'd been struck by lightning. My memory of last night was completely blank. Impossible. Isabella placed a contract in front of me, with my thumbprint on it. The gist was that I would be her lover, and she would pay me $100,000 a month. This can't be my thumbprint. Really? Isabella chuckled. Are you sure? Facing her serious and frank gaze, I opened my mouth but couldn't utter a word. She ignored my unease and took out a recording pen. Last night, I accidentally recorded your monologue. Mr. Montgomery, would you like to hear your filthy thoughts? I shivered as if plunged into an ice cellar. A wave of immense shame washed over me. Such thoughts were disgusting enough when hidden. Now that they were spoken and used as evidence, it felt like I had committed a crime. Isabella's eyes narrowed slightly, her expression unreadable. Lusting after an engaged woman, Alexander. How about we let them hear this recording? I clenched my fists tightly, my voice hoarse. Are you retaliating against me? Yes, she replied nonchalantly. You didn't want me to have it easy back then, so why should I let you have it easy now? Either fulfill the contract, or I make the recording public. The clock in the corner ticked. Its sound, along with my heartbeat, thudded against my eardrums. My lips were chapped. I looked up numbly. Then make it public. Under her icy gaze, I said woodenly, Isabella, I won't be a home wrecker. Isabella stared at me intently, then smiled. Alexander, who do you think you are? Do you still have the right to choose? I found my disheveled clothes in the bathroom. Isabella's clothes were neatly hung on the rack by the door, a clear distinction. The scene stung my eyes. I sighed silently, changed, and walked out of the hotel. Lucas called, his voice strained. Alexander, they want $500,000. The sky was gray and overcast. The sun was nowhere to be seen. Lucas hadn't saved much money, trying to pay for my treatment, and my own savings were pitifully small. They said if we don't pay, they'll expose your situation and won't tell you where your aunt's belongings and ashes are. I'll try to get an advance on my salary and borrow some from people. I should have it by next month, okay? After much hesitation, I dialed a number. It took a while for the call to connect. Mr. Montgomery, is something wrong? I let out a breath. Dr. Carter, I'm so sorry to bother you. Dr. Carter seemed very busy on her end. After some shuffling, she found a quiet place and asked patiently, Are you in some difficulty? I took a deep breath. Could you lend me $40,000? This was the first time I had ever asked someone for money. After saying it, I felt as if I was on fire. Suddenly, there was a commotion on her end. Dr. Carter, emergency surgery. Got it. I hadn't held out much hope, prepared for her to hang up directly. At the last moment, Dr. Carter said curtly, Text me your account number. I'll transfer it to you today. Then she hung up. The sky was still gray, but the cold, indifferent dial tones suddenly felt warm. In the evening, the manager knocked on my desk. We have dinner with a client tonight. You're coming. A few hours ago, I had just asked him for a month's salary in advance. With the borrowed money and my previous savings, I had barely scraped together $50,000. When I walked into the private room, I saw Isabella. She was a tall, enchanting figure, effortlessly mingling with the crowd. The light from the crystal chandelier outlined her delicate profile. The manager gently pushed me forward, and instantly, all eyes were on me. Ms. Thorne, is this someone from your company? Isabella glanced over casually and smiled. Yes, a newcomer. What kind of newcomer needs Ms. Thorne to personally bring them? He's good looking. Amidst the idle chat, everyone sat down. The manager placed me next to Isabella and whispered, Be sharp tonight. Block drinks when you need to. Someone tactfully asked, Miss Thorne, can your new employee drink or not? Before Isabella could answer, the manager quickly replied, He can drink, he can drink. Then he pushed a glass of wine in front of me. A toast first. Isabella smiled without saying a word, gently tapping the table. I picked up the glass, held my breath, and drank it all in one go. The spicy liquor rushed recklessly down my esophagus, igniting a fire that roared and churned in my stomach. Everyone cheered, ready to press on, but Isabella changed the subject. Where were we? Let's continue. The atmosphere was lively. Many people wanted to toast Isabella, but she used the excuse of a bad stomach and didn't drink a drop. In the end, the manager found ways to pour it all into my stomach. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore and went to the restroom. The faucet in the sink was running. I kept dry heaving, and my clean, neat shirt quickly became soaked. After texting Lucas, I completely lost my strength, lowered my head, and leaned against the sink, closing my eyes and panting heavily. Hurried footsteps approached from outside the door. The door was pushed open. I thought it was someone coming to use the restroom. Unexpectedly, Isabella's voice came, calm. Can't hold on anymore? I gathered my strength, pushed myself up, and swayed as I tried to walk out. Isabella grabbed my arm and dragged me back. She pressed me against the sink, examining me closely. Let go of me. Stomach acid had corroded my throat, and every word I spoke caused pain. Isabella easily dragged me to the mirror, made me face it, and leaned on my shoulder, smiling. Take a good look at yourself. If you go out like this, aren't you afraid of attracting unwanted attention? In the mirror, my eyes were glazed and my collar was open. Isabella, through the mirror, brazenly scrutinized my body. I closed my eyes. Who could have more ulterior motives than you? Isabella chuckled, her lips brushing my ear. Come back with me tonight, okay? Get lost. She ruthlessly silenced me, wantonly depleting the oxygen in my lungs. Under the influence of alcohol, my blood felt like boiling lava, rushing madly through my body. The light blurred into a mass, and water droplets seemed to be seen through a film, drop by drop, like sulfuric acid on my heart. It was agonizing. I felt like I was being dragged back to those dark days again, despairingly gazing at this dazzling, colorful world, feeling utterly out of place. Isabella, can you please let me go? I was falling silently, crashing hard into the bottom of a well. It was probably painful, but I couldn't feel it anymore. Alexander. Isabella was calling me. Her eyes no longer held that look of wishing I were dead. She was panicking, so much so that I couldn't tell if the person before me was the her of my youth or the her of today. I said, Isabella, I never want to see you again. The high fever came on fiercely. My consciousness was muddled, and my whole body ached terribly. The north wind howled outside the window. In a daze, I dreamed of the past. I was lying in a hospital bed, asking Isabella, what if I die? She held my hand, coaxing me softly, don't say such things. It's just a fever. You'll be fine. After the shot, I asked, do you have enough money for living expenses? Shots are expensive. It's okay. How can it be okay? How many jobs are you working? Isabella didn't answer. She rested her chin on her hand and said seriously, as long as you're safe and sound, nothing else matters to me. I smiled bitterly. When my parents stop fighting, I'll ask them for living expenses to pay you back. Isabella's eyes were gentle. Trust me, we'll have money in the future. But I didn't end up safe and sound as she had hoped. The night Isabella went to another state for a competition, I came home and pushed open my parents' bedroom door. My dad was holding another woman in his arms. My glamorous life began to crumble from that moment. Then came my parents' violent quarrels, my dad's unannounced departure, and the Montgomery family's mounting debts. One late night, those aged debt collectors came to our door. The swaying light overhead, the men's excited shouts, the dull pain on my skin and the disgusting touch, and my mom's heart-wrenching screams all mixed into a chaotic mess, swirling in my mind. The scene was like a fast-forwarded movie. My mom was forced to her death in the bathtub by the creditors, her body exposed. Lucas found me half dead and took me to the distant city of Asheville. On a rainy day, I knelt in a corner of the hospital, wearing mourning clothes, my expression haggard. He has a family history of hereditary depression. Does he have any other relatives? Lucas looked at me with concern. He has a girlfriend competing in another city. Notify her to come over. The doctor's words, mixed with some professional jargon, continued. He has clear suicidal tendencies right now. Treatment will be very difficult. He won't be able to be left alone for several years. The family should be prepared for a long battle. At that time, my mental state was too fragile to report to the police, gather evidence, and seek justice. Lucas and I were like two stray dogs. We fled the place where we had grown up, defeated and disgraced. On the same day, Isabella's name was first on the list of competition winners. She had secured a spot to study abroad. She called. When I answered, the sound of a howling wind came from the other end. Alexander. Isabella's voice was incredibly gentle. I didn't let you down. In 3 years, we'll get married. I looked at the slowly closing iron gate, unable to find my way home anymore. Isabella, I might not be able to be with you. Tears welled up in my eyes. I tilted my head back, took a deep breath, and then smiled nonchalantly. She held her breath. Why? I opened my mouth, hesitating for a moment. Her future was bright. Did I really want to selfishly trap Isabella's future in the rainy, dreary city of Asheville for the rest of her life? Outside the window, a boy was crying uncontrollably, leaning against the fence. His girlfriend's face was numb and disgusted, a heartbreaking sight. I saw what it looked like when love disappeared from someone's eyes. It was devastating. The wind blew my hair back, revealing the scars all over my body. After a long pause, I said casually, Isabella, you take care of yourself. Let's just call it quits. The sound of an instrument beeping came from my ear. The evening sun filtered through the blinds, landing on a sofa not far away, like a beautiful layer of sprinkled gold. The nightmare gradually receded, and I sat up. A young woman sat on the sofa, quietly peeling an apple with her head down. Her fair, slender fingers were very nimble. In a short while, a whole perfectly peeled fruit appeared, round and clean. It was Isabella. Hearing the movement, she looked up, met my gaze, silently stood up, and pressed the call bell. The doctor quickly came in, shone a light into my pupils, confirmed I was fine, then turned to Isabella and said, he's not getting enough nutrition in his daily diet. You can focus on supplementing more protein. Isabella nodded. Thank you. The door closed. She walked to the bedside and handed me the apple. Don't think about anything. Just focus on getting better. I didn't take it. Instead, I got out of bed and started rummaging through the closet. My phone was gone. There were no outdoor clothes either. She let me fuss around in the hospital room. Isabella, what are you trying to do? I stood barefoot on the floor. A ray of sunlight streamed in, reflecting my pale, haggard face on the glass. Don't you know what I want? Isabella placed the apple on the bedside table, took out a tissue, and slowly wiped her hands clean. I want you. She sat in the light, her beautiful eyes staring at me undisguisedly. Her gaze was scorching and humiliating. I trembled, clenching my fists. Isabella, you can't do this to me. Isabella stood up and walked over to me in a few steps. Why can't I? I like someone else. Please stop pestering me. Really? There wasn't a hint of a smile on Isabella's face. She cupped my face, stood on tiptoe, and leaned in. Her lips stopped a centimeter from mine. I couldn't break free. The moment I turned my head, I closed my eyes, my body shivering uncontrollably. Isabella smiled, her cool voice filling my ears. Alexander, you're lying. The private hospital was located in the suburbs, with endless forests outside the window. I couldn't get out nor could I contact anyone. I had tried to seek help from the doctors and nurses, but they said they were powerless. Isabella came every day, mostly in the evening. She would arrive travel-worn and talk to me for a while. I was very resistant to her displays of affection, but Isabella didn't force it. Lately, I had been dreaming a lot about the past. Back then, I used to pester Isabella all the time to buy me banana milk. Top student Isabella skipped class for the first time and got caught by the teacher. Later in college, rumors started spreading about her and the campus heartthrob. I took a dozen subway stops and sat downstairs at the girls' dormitory. Isabella got dressed in the middle of the night, rushed downstairs, and hugged me coquettishly. If you want me, I'm yours. And in the future, it will only be you. Alexander, I love you so much, so much. Back then, we probably couldn't have guessed that things would turn out this way. More than a decade later, tomorrow, I'm getting married. The sun hadn't set yet outside the window. Its warmth lingered. Isabella's voice pulled my distant thoughts back. Do you have anything to say to me? I held the cold water cup, staring at her face, lost in thought. I suddenly understood why I had been dreaming so frequently lately. I was saying goodbye to the Alexander and Isabella of the past. The news on TV every day was about her and Spencer. A golden couple, a match made in heaven. That was once the future we hoped for. But the Alexander of today, a mess of debts, what right did he have? Congratulations, I said. May you have a child soon. Isabella's apple-peeling motion paused. The knife grazed her finger, and blood quickly seeped out. She froze for a moment, took out a tissue to press on it, lowered her head, and smiled. It's okay. It's just a formality with him. Do you want us to have our own child? I have no objection. Isabella, let's just leave it at that, okay? I suddenly felt very tired. Let's all be dignified. Isabella stopped peeling the apple, tossed it back into the fruit basket, and stared at me, a sarcastic smile on her face. Just leave it at that? Why? You started it. In the end, you say you're tired of it and walk away, scathed. What does that make me? A dog. I closed my eyes, dispelling the halo of sunlight in my vision. Then I'll give it back to you. Isabella stiffened. What did you say? I looked at the setting sun. You don't want me to live well. I can die. My chin was suddenly grabbed, my head turned. I met Isabella's furious eyes. Alexander, are you sick? If you wanted to die so badly, why didn't you die back then? I don't remember when she left that night. Isabella's best friend, Amelia, also a friend of mine from many years ago, pushed open the door and burst in. Alexander, what did you promise me? Her barrage of questions stunned me. Do you know how much Isabella will lose by breaking off the engagement? You're an adult now. Can you stop being as willful as you were back then? Letting Isabella take care of everything for you? Can you think about her for once? What's wrong? What's wrong? Amelia laughed angrily, roaring at me. Isabella is calling off the wedding because of you. And you're asking me what's wrong? My ears were ringing. I sat there in a daze, my mind blank. She publicly called off the wedding. Where did that leave me? A homewrecker destroying someone else's family. Amelia forcefully dragged me out of bed. Come with me. Weren't you good at this back then? Tired of it? Found someone new? So many excuses, just pick one. Alexander. Amelia trembled with anger. If you hadn't come back, would any of this have happened? The roar echoed in the snowstorm. The north wind howled, freezing all my senses. My ears were ringing. I couldn't hear anything. Her eyes held an unprecedented hatred, as if someone like me deserved to die. Amelia, she's the one who won't let me go. Amelia's face turned cold. After this is over, I'll send you away. The office building was dimly lit late at night. Amelia dragged me in, but unfortunately, the press conference had already begun. Isabella sat calmly under the spotlight. I hear the reason you called off the wedding is because of a third party's interference. Facing the reporter's question, she handled it with ease. Mr. Hayes and I had some disagreements. We broke up amicably. Amelia's face was ashen. She gripped my wrist tightly, not allowing me to move. But according to insiders, you and your first love have rekindled your old flame. Isabella remained composed. These are all rumors. If there are no other questions, today's press conference ends here. The moment she stood up, someone suddenly shouted, "He's here." That's him. All the cameras in the room instantly turned towards us. I was exposed under the spotlight, disheveled and stunned. Reporters swarmed in, and in just a few seconds, we were surrounded. Question after question rained down. What is your relationship with Isabella Thorne? Did you really interfere in someone else's marriage? The camera shutters clicked incessantly. Isabella's smile suddenly froze. She stood up, pushed through the crowd, and walked towards me. No, I didn't. I refuted weakly, but my voice was quickly drowned out by their intense curiosity. The questions kept coming. There's new breaking news. A reporter shouted excitedly, holding up his phone. My voice came from it, hazy with drunkenness, like sleep talking. Isabella, I love you. It was the recording pen. My heart pounded with fear. I once thought that nothing could make my life worse. When this storm truly arrived, I was completely destroyed. Isn't this just a homewrecker? Shameless. The crowd's whispers were like a slap in the face. The color drained from my face instantly. The recording nailed me to the pillar of shame. I'm sorry, Amelia. Get him out of here. Isabella pushed through the crowd, a panicked expression on her face. For the first time, my vision went white. I only heard that person enunciate each word. Father in debt, mother shamed into suicide, suffers from severe hereditary depression, was confined in Asheville psychiatric hospital for 5 years. Isn't this just a mental patient? It was like a stone thrown into a calm lake, causing a huge uproar. The crowd was in an uproar. Why is a mental patient out here harming people? Are they sick? Why don't they just die? Isabella's steps faltered. She suddenly looked up at me, shock, disbelief, incredulity all written over her face. I stood in the noisy crowd, my blood turning colder and colder until my whole body was chilled to the bone. Alexander, Isabella called me, her voice trembling. I knew what was coming next. I was just calmly waiting for the axe to fall, to completely destroy my life. He was also sexually assaulted. A grown man played with. This was the last sentence of the anonymous tip. The moment she heard it, Isabella's face turned as white as paper. Since that day after returning from the company, Isabella hadn't spoken a word. The blinds had been closed for 3 days. No light could penetrate the dim room. Unanswered calls dominated her phone screen, and she hadn't clicked on a single one. Time seemed to have pressed pause on her. Isabella sat there curled up, lifeless. She still remembered the man's cold tone when he took Alexander away. He had said, We all hoped he would live. Miss Thorne, you truly have an iron fist. You effortlessly made all our efforts go to waste. Lucas was stopped by security outside, roaring at her. Isabella, don't you know? He'll have an episode if he doesn't take his medicine. Keeping him locked up is no different from murder. Depression, psychiatric hospital. These words, like countless sharp thorns, churned recklessly in her thoughts, cruelly tugging at her nerves. Amelia knocked on the door, then pushed it open a crack, standing at the entrance. Isabella, are you feeling better? Why? Isabella's voice was hoarse. The dull pain in her chest was agonizing. Amelia was silent for a moment. I'm sorry. I didn't think it was necessary to investigate back then. So the information was fake, wasn't it? Isabella's voice was very soft. Amelia, while you were telling me he was living a carefree life abroad, Alexander was locked up in a psychiatric hospital in Asheville. I'm sorry. I didn't know. This explanation was pale and feeble. She knew she couldn't blame Amelia entirely. If she had just asked a few more questions, perhaps things wouldn't have turned out this way. Isabella no longer had the energy to listen to Amelia's excuses. Lucas, ignoring the secretary's attempts to stop him, pushed open the door and entered. The glaring light made Isabella squint, but she didn't stop him. The secretary apologized profusely. I'm sorry, Miss Thorne. I couldn't stop him. Leave, Isabella said. The secretary carefully closed the door behind them, and the room returned to its dimness. Lucas stood there, seemingly wanting nothing to do with her. Miss Thorne, there are some things that can be said now. The window was open a crack, and the cold wind was bone-chilling. Isabella sat there motionless, just listening quietly. Wrongdoings always lead to retribution sooner or later. Last year on Alexander's birthday, I jokingly asked him who he loved most in the world. He said the first was his mother, the second was Isabella. Isabella closed her eyes, feeling that this sentence chilled her to the bone. At that time, his illness had just stabilized. He only needed to take a small pill every day to be like a normal person. So this year, to sort out his aunt's belongings, I brought him back. Lucas's eyes were red. He always said that the breakup back then was too undignified. This time, he wanted to reunite with you properly, even just to see his great entrepreneur from afar. That would be enough because he knew he wasn't good enough for you anymore. Isabella, was he not good enough for you? Do you know how the competition spot was won? Isabella's hand slowly tightened, as if she could see the truths that were about to crush her. It was already internally decided. It was Alexander who wrote a letter of complaint, demanding fairness and transparency. That's how the spot fell to you. But correspondingly, he offended many people, so much so that later, after his dad ran off, he and his mother were harassed by many. That invisible large hand was choking Isabella's neck. She was in too much pain to breathe. He had been bullied. Was it because of this? Lucas continued. At that time, you were competing in another state and hadn't called back for about a week. So you probably didn't know that things here had turned upside down. The Montgomery family fell. His dad ran off with his mistress, and a bunch of debt collectors were at their door every day, demanding Alexander and his mom's lives. His aunt was shamed into suicide. Alexander fought desperately with them, almost lost his life, and then those disgusting things were done to him. After that, he had an episode. At his worst, I couldn't take my eyes off him for a second. He was tortured beyond recognition. Back then, Lucas stared intently at Isabella. When you had the car accident, Alexander went crazy, begging me to let him die. How could you expect him to go to you? Isabella's face was ashen. She closed her eyes. The memories of the past few months tortured her relentlessly. She had allowed the manager to get Alexander drunk and send him to her room. She had lured him into confessing his true feelings while he was drunk, and then, in a fit of madness, forged a fake agreement with no legal validity, all just to watch him struggle, suffer humiliation, and be mocked, time and time again. Finally, she had stubbornly locked him up in a private hospital in the suburbs. Lucas had come to see her many times, but she refused to meet him. She had asked him if he was sick, asked him why he didn't die back then. Alexander's eyes grew increasingly vacant. He would often stare at her motionless. She had mistakenly believed that Alexander still loved her then. But thinking about it now, Isabella silently questioned how she could have treated him so cruelly. Why didn't you tell me? Lucas smiled bitterly. How could I explain? He was sick. Even living was a luxury. The only thing he could do was to prevent the people he cared about from being dragged down by him. He valued your studies above all else. That competition was your chance to turn things around, an opportunity he fought for with his life. He just wanted you to be well. Isabella, did he deserve to die? Did he deserve to die? This question was like a heavy hammer, striking Isabella's heart fiercely. She was the one who had entangled him, tortured him, and made a fool of him. She was the one who had known he had a good upbringing and used the contract to insult him. She was the one who deserved to die. We tried many ways to reignite Alexander's will to live. In the end, we found that only one thing worked for him. Isabella suddenly didn't dare to listen further. Lucas smiled bitterly and said, "Your name." He always remembered his great entrepreneur. When I left, I joked with Lucas, saying I would never come back to this place. As it turns out, you shouldn't make promises you can't keep. I was sick again. Asheville was only dry in winter. In previous years, it would be freezing rain, but this year, unusually, it snowed. When the doctors and nurses said, "This year is a cold winter. TSK, the Earth's climate is becoming less and less suitable for human survival." It was almost the new year. The tree branches outside the window were bare, not a single leaf left. I pressed my face against the window pane, my breath fogging up a layer of mist. "There's someone downstairs. She stands there every day. Isn't she cold?" I asked. Lucas replied expressionlessly. "Oh, really? Probably not cold." He hadn't been in a good mood lately, so much so that I didn't dare say much every day, lest we argue again. Lucas handed me a glass of water. "Drink it. Take your medicine in an hour. Dr. Carter said she wants you to build a snowman with her tonight." I glanced at the person again, feeling a sense of familiarity. Lucas pulled the curtains for me. "Stop looking, or you'll go blind." Oh, I went back to bed. After taking my medicine, I leaned against the pillow and played games. I could hear Lucas and Dr. Carter talking outside. Then she pushed open the door and came in. I quickly hid my phone, sat up straight, and forced a smile. "I've taken my medicine." The smell of disinfectant instantly filled the room. Dr. Carter's gaze swept over me, finally settling on my face. "Mr. Montgomery, I won't scold you for playing games." I blushed deeply. "How did you know I was playing games?" "I play too. I'm very familiar with the background music." Dr. Carter washed her hands, took off her white coat, and looked at me through the mirror, a slight smile on her face. "Aren't you going to get dressed? You're going to build a snowman with me." She was from the thoracic surgery department of the same hospital. The first time I saw her seemed to be in autumn. The weather was unusually sunny. I was squatting by the fence, picking foxtails from outside. Dr. Carter walked by and looked down at me. I said, "Excuse me, could you help me pick that up?" She looked up at the hospital sign and said regretfully, "According to regulations, you cannot touch anything dangerous." Seeing that I didn't move, she asked again, "What do you want to do with it?" "Hold it in my mouth." Dr. Carter looked at the time, squatted down, and said, "Then I'll watch you. When the time is up, I'll take the grass away." Her lunch break was very short. I quietly stayed with her, separated by the fence for a while. Finally, when she was about to leave, I said, "Thank you." Later, I ran into her a few more times. She was very busy and didn't pay much attention to me. Until one day she came again, with a few stray hairs sticking up on her head. "Sorry, I've been too busy lately." Later, she started chatting with me. "You seem to talk very little." I can't talk too much." "Why?" "I'm sick. I probably can't say anything cheerful. I can't dump my emotional garbage on others." Dr. Carter stared at me at that time, without saying a word. Later, she started coming more frequently. Sometimes she would be very tired. I tried to learn a few jokes to tell her. Every time Dr. Carter would watch me intently, she asked, "Alexander, what is your wish?" "I hope everyone is happy, including myself." I quickly put on my gear. After Dr. Carter put on her down jacket, she linked her arm with mine, and we went downstairs. There was a security gate every few steps here. Only she could take me out. Under the night sky, snow fell heavily. Dr. Carter handed me a small shovel and smiled. "I want to see you build a snowman for me, okay?" The cold air inexplicably put me in a good mood. I carried the shovel and circled the frozen fountain. When I turned around, I suddenly saw Isabella standing not far away. Her considerably thinner, pretty face was pale, her eyes were red, looking at me. "Isabella." My voice was soft, somewhat surprised. Isabella's lips moved. "Alexander, I was wrong. If it were before, I would have definitely smiled and teased. Where could the young miss be wrong now?" But I just held the snow shovel, feeling a bit awkward, and said, "It's okay. I had experienced too much suffering, and my edges had long been smoothed." The wind and snow howled in the dark night. Isabella slowly approached, her voice hoarse. "How can it be okay? Alexander, please say something to me, okay?" I thought for a moment. "I wish us good health in the new year." In that instant, the color drained from Isabella's face. Tears streamed down her face, and she trembled. "Don't treat me like this, please." I touched her face. It was very cold, Very cool. So just like back then, I cupped her face and said seriously, I wanted to choose a dignified way to see you, but it ended up a mess. I'm sorry. It was my fault. Isabella said. If I had, then I chose to leave your life. You can't blame others. I spoke very slowly and also a bit sadly. At the class reunion, I asked the class president. I only went because you weren't there. I don't know why she lied to me. I just wanted to hear some news about you, to see if you were doing well. Isabella cried uncontrollably. I'm sorry. It was me. I did it on purpose. Is that so? I smiled, an indescribable feeling in my heart. Alexander, I'm sorry. I wasn't there for you when you were at your lowest. Isabella held my hand and finally noticed the scar on my wrist. You don't need to feel sorry. I didn't want to force you to stay. Many years later, we would live a hard life together, bringing up old scores when we argued, counting who owed whom. I patiently brushed the snowflakes from her eyelashes. Isabella, seeing you so successful, I'm really happy. But I said I wanted to make money for you to spend. Isabella held my hand tightly. Without you, what do I need those things for? I patted her head and smiled. Look, my scarf cost over $100. I have enough money now. The light in Isabella's eyes extinguished. She trembled and asked, We can't go back, can we? Isabella, you have your life, and I have to walk my own path. I'm not going back to New York. How could hurtful words be easily forgotten? Everyone has memories. I was nailed to the pillar of shame. If I went back, every step I took would be like walking on a knife's edge. That would be 10,000 times more painful than letting go of a relationship. Isabella gently took a breath, grasped my hand, and just like back then, warmed them up again. About the recording, I'm very sorry. I lured you into saying it that night. I didn't touch you. My eyes welled up. Isabella then apologized to me again and again, saying sorry. She was in agony, greedily engraving my face into her memory, making a final farewell. I gently patted her shoulder, but in the end, I couldn't bring myself to say it's okay. Isabella, may your remaining years be peaceful and happy. The snow in the sky grew heavier. I turned, took forceful strides, and tried to walk forward. Behind me, the wind and snow howled, the sound gradually fading. I didn't know if it was the sound of the wind or Isabella's crying. Dr. Carter stood under a dim yellow street light, wearing a camel-colored coat, her hands in her pockets. I could vaguely see her pretty features and focused gaze. I walked closer. She acted as if she hadn't seen anything and asked, What did you see? I forced a smile, looking a bit unsightly. Dr. Carter, thank you. A few days later, I saw Isabella in the entertainment section of the news. She had lost a lot of weight. Facing the interview, she told the media everything she had done in detail. It was she who had forced me, and she had also guided me to say those things in the recording. At the same time, she also showed an agreement. The signatories were her and Spencer Hayes. It was a 2-year engagement period, ending in an amicable breakup, a win-win cooperation. The two had never planned to get married. That night was the date originally written in the agreement to hold a press conference and announce the dissolution of the engagement. This incident undoubtedly brought a devastating blow to Isabella's company. Her years of accumulated reputation and status plummeted in the following days. Amelia once called me. She said, I'm sorry, Alexander. I owe you an explanation. She said she was a poor judge of character. Spencer Hayes had ulterior motives and exposed my situation. Those creditors who had extorted $500,000 from me before, after Isabella took me to the private hospital and they couldn't contact me, they turned around and sold the information to Spencer Hayes for double the price. She also said she was very worried about Isabella's work situation and asked if I could go back. My answer was still the same. I had said everything I needed to say. For the rest, I was powerless. 3 months later, my condition stabilized, and I was about to be discharged from the hospital. The warm sunlight spread over my body. Outside the window, spring flowers were in bloom. The familiar smell of disinfectant wafted in again. I knew Dr. Carter had arrived. Do you have anything to eat? I've been busy all day. Give me a bite. She was too busy lately and always came to my place for food. I took off my wool scarf, revealing a steaming hot red bean paste bun. Dr. Carter took it without hesitation, tore open the packaging, and devoured it. I just stared at her until she asked with amusement, Why are you looking at me like that? You are easy to feed. Dr. Carter finished eating. Have you considered settling down here? Why do you ask? Well, I have an apartment that I'm renting out. I thought for a moment. Are you very short on money? Because she did seem very sincere. I don't have much income right now, so I probably can't afford expensive rent. I'm very cheap, Dr. Carter said with a straight face, lying. I don't have neighbors, and I'm scared to be alone. She seemed to be trying to trick me, but I wasn't sure. On the day I was discharged, a gentle spring breeze lifted my spirits. A long, lost smile appeared on my face. When crossing the road, Dr. Carter forgot to look at the traffic light. I grabbed the back of her collar and ruthlessly pulled her back. She unexpectedly crashed into my arms, and then she hugged me and didn't let go. Emma, I'm pursuing you. Her voice was very soft, very casual, the corners of her lips slightly upturned, as if she had said something like, the weather is nice today. Thump, thump. A child in the distance was shaking a toy drum, babbling and playing. Thump, thump. It was my heart beating. My voice was unsteady, but I still bravely looked at Dr. Carter. I loved someone for many, many years. I'm not sure. The wind messed up Dr. Carter's hair. Her eyes were gentle. Mr. Montgomery, I've also loved someone for many, many years. Give me a chance. At that moment, my eyes welled up a bit. I'm not very good. I've been sick and my body is also. Mr. Montgomery, you once said that you hope everyone is happy, including yourself. Dr. Carter blinked. I hope your wish comes true. A gentle breeze blew. Sunlight broke through the treetops, landing on her eyebrows. The spring I once thought was unattainable had, at some point, bloomed everywhere, full of vibrant color. The second winter, Spencer Hayes's company declared bankruptcy. Those who had bullied Alexander back then were also sent to prison by Isabella. After several crises, Isabella's company finally made a comeback. On this day, Isabella sat alone in her office for a long time. Snowflakes danced outside the window, and the car lights below formed a continuous stream. This was after she had been working continuously for half a month. It felt like a lifetime ago. She suddenly remembered that it had also snowed on this day a year ago. Alexander had appeared at the class reunion. The moment he saw her arrive with Spencer Hayes, his eyes were filled with shock and panic. Later, she dreamed of that scene countless times, and countless times in her dreams she made changes. She broke off the engagement early. When the manager tried to drug Alexander, she called the police. She didn't force Alexander to drink, nor did she say harsh words to him. She, as Alexander had envisioned, had a dignified reunion. Alexander came back, held her tightly in the middle of the night, and told her about his past experiences. They reunited after a long separation, kissed, and entered into a happy marriage. She and Alexander took wedding photos. In the photos, he smiled brightly, and suddenly, his fingers intertwined with hers. Every time she woke up from a dream, she lay alone in bed, listening to the tick-tock of the pendulum clock. Only then would she realize that time was moving forward, but Alexander would never appear in her remaining life again. He had left completely. That snowy night in Asheville, Alexander wished her peace and happiness for the rest of her life. His eyes were sincere and open. He said he wasn't coming back. He felt sad for not having a dignified reunion. Because she had hurt him, he decided to leave. There were no words of blame, no resentful complaints. That sentence, "May your remaining years be peaceful and happy," was like a gentle knife, deeply piercing her heart, bringing an indelible lingering pain. Due to her long-term irregular schedule, she developed a stomach condition. When it flared up, it was excruciatingly painful. This night, she woke up from a dream again. Lying on the cold bed, with a cold crescent moon outside the window, she vaguely remembered that Alexander had watched the moon with her. It felt like a lifetime ago. She suddenly missed Alexander very much. The next day, she booked a flight to Asheville. A year later, stepping into this place again, the weather was still heavy wind and snow. Pedestrians hurried along the road. Isabella followed the address and found an apartment building. It was getting dark, but the lights in the second-floor unit were not on. Isabella stood waiting in a corner. Half an hour later, Alexander's voice came, gentle and serious. "That place's tomato beef brisket isn't good. Next time you buy some brisket, and I'll make it for you. Lucas likes it too. Call him over to eat." Isabella subconsciously looked over, and that familiar figure suddenly crashed into her sight. He was wearing a gray down jacket covered by snow. Only white remained. His face was a bit rounder. Walking in the snow, his steps were steady. Beside him was a petite figure, always looking up at him with adoration and gentleness. She slightly raised her eyes, her gaze falling on Isabella, and suddenly stopped moving. The two women faced each other across the wind and snow, neither speaking. "Evelyn, did you hear what I said?" It was still the familiar tone, but it was directed at someone else. Dr. Carter averted her gaze and complained softly, "I heard you. You want to make tomato beef brisket, but last time you burned the pot. and I haven't bought a new one yet. Alexander pursed his lips, feeling a bit guilty. I'm sorry. Dr. Carter patted his shoulder as if patting a cute big white bear. You go home first. The son hasn't been fed yet. Where are you going to buy a pot? What about the brisket? Buy it together. So urgent, yeah? I want to eat it tonight. Alexander shook his head and helplessly went into the building. Only then did Dr. Carter look over. Isabella had nothing to say, so she spoke first. Congratulations. Dr. Carter smiled. Thank you. Actually, she knew Isabella had misunderstood. The son was the cat she and Alexander were raising, but Dr. Carter didn't want to explain. Last year, when she brought Alexander down to build a snowman, she had given her a chance. No matter what, it was over. Between Isabella and him, they should both be well. His condition was stable. Dr. Carter was very direct. He has a very good temperament, doesn't get angry easily, and is a very good person. Isabella knew he was doing well because she knew what Alexander looked like when he was happy. Dr. Carter looked at her with sharp scrutiny. Isabella, how many years have you known Alexander? 14 years exactly. You know him better than I do. His birthday is coming up soon, and I want to get him a birthday present. Home, cooked food is fine. He can't eat spicy food, and he doesn't like sweets either. Isabella blurted it out without thinking. Dr. Carter nodded matter-of-factly. Thank you. 14 years exactly. You know him better than I do. These words were Dr. Carter's expression of dissatisfaction towards her. If she understood him, why would she hate Alexander so deeply? Why, in the following days, did she make him suffer so much? Isabella. A steady voice pierced through the wind and snow. Isabella suddenly turned her head and looked over. That face she had longed for day and night, just like that, unexpectedly burst into her vision. Even the curve of his smile was exactly the same as in her memory. Alexander held an umbrella and walked over, somewhat surprised. Why are you here? Isabella's heart ached. She saw clarity and openness in his eyes. He had already let go. She was silent for a moment, then said, I'm here on business, just passing by. I ran into Miss Carter and chatted for a bit. Passing by the neighborhood? Alexander was a little confused. Dr. Carter asked, why did you come down again? Alexander remembered something and handed her the umbrella. I saw it was snowing heavily, afraid you'd catch a cold, so I came down to bring you an umbrella. When he spoke to Dr. Carter, the corners of his mouth were slightly raised, his eyes warm. The scene stung Isabella's eyes. Would you like to come in for a bit? Dr. Carter asked politely. Isabella smiled. No thanks. I have a flight tonight. I'm in a hurry. Alexander suddenly remembered something and said, wait for me. Then he turned and ran into the building. Dr. Carter, expressionless, also went up. Isabella waited downstairs for a while. The snow grew heavier. The sky was gray and overcast, pressing down on people's hearts. Her stomach started to hurt again. Amelia called Isabella. She hesitated. Your test results are out. Stomach cancer. Isabella stood motionless. It was unclear if she heard or not. She looked up at the vast snow and said, okay, I know. Then she hung up the phone. She acted as if nothing was wrong, continued to wait, her eyes always fixed on the entrance of the building. A warm beam of light emerged from inside, landing on the snow, forming a trapezoid. After a while, Alexander came down alone. The wind was strong and the snow was heavy. Alexander stepped through the deep snow, holding a small red box. He walked over and handed it to Isabella. I baked these cookies myself. Take them to eat on the way. Isabella took it and suddenly remembered that many years ago, Alexander loved to bake. Back then, they were still terrible, with a strong, eggy smell. All the failed products ended up in her stomach. He really had no talent for cooking. Isabella even said that in the future, Alexander was forbidden from entering the kitchen at home. In the blink of an eye, he could make them quite well. Alexander said very sincerely, thank you for donating to us. Isabella knew that their organization helped people with psychological illnesses and financial difficulties, so she donated every month, keeping only a very small portion for her own living expenses. Isabella said, you're welcome. The Isabella of today was accomplished and famous, a distinguished talent in the city who had returned from overseas. Alexander, Isabella smiled. How could that be? In the future, we'll still have to invite you for award ceremonies. Isabella's throat tightened, and she didn't speak. He turned, crunched through the snow, and just as he was about to enter the door, he turned back and called her name, Isabella. Isabella immediately looked up, her heart suddenly coming alive. She waited for Alexander to say something. Alexander just smiled at her and said, Happy New Year. It was a very ordinary New Year's greeting, not even wishing health and happiness anymore. Isabella's heart returned to silence. She stood in the cold wind and replied, "Happy New Year."